Boa, Tard, and Ola. Welcome to episode 62 of my Wurm Unlimited tutorial series. This episode is going to be on reinforcing the mine. Yes, I know it's long overdue, but excuse me, sorry, caught off guard there. Apologies. I know it's long overdue, but so is a lot of the content, for goodness sake, that I've gone over. It all seems to be important, and it all seems to be needing to be shown yesterday. But this is a series that is meant to be on an indexing basis, so just hop and jump between the episodes. If you're a new player, jump to episode 62 if you want to know about reinforcing first, or start at whatever episode you wish. It's not meant as a series that you watch every single video. By no means. There's absolutely no way I believe a normal, rational human being could put up with 62 episodes of my waffling. But hopefully a little help as well. Anyway, why am I starting this episode facing the glorious fountain? Well, I did say, didn't I, when I finished the divination episode, that I was going to show you the water inside. So, let's do that. And then I want to say a couple of things before we actually start on the content of this episode, in my normal fashion. But here we go, let's open the fountain. As you can see, we get a good amount of water stored in there. Of course, the amount has gone down slightly because we filled it up. Yes, we've been filleting, yes, we've been fishing, and yes, we've been hot food cooking, as you can see, which is fantastic. So there we are. Now, the way it works with the fountain is, let's say, for example, let's get this cauldron in my pocket. Let's pour the water on the ground, just to demonstrate. Okay, so there we are. We've put a cauldron in our pocket. To fill it up with water, we simply activate the cauldron whilst being in our pocket. Right-click the water and fill, just like you would do on the shore or on any water source. So we do that. Observe the water goes down, and then what it will do is slowly refill itself back up. You'll notice, depending on the amount of water you drain out, it will take longer to refill itself, but it will refill. So as you can see now, I've filled the cauldron up with water, put that back in our cart. That will slowly fill back up with water. So it's a permanent water source, absolutely fantastic and absolutely beautiful. Okay, a couple of things I want to say to you all before we move on to this actual the content of this episode. First of all, I would like you all to send Cass a really big virtual hug. She recently had a great loss in her family, so please send her your love and a prayer. My heart is with you, Cass, and I'm very, very sorry for what you're going through at the moment. I absolutely understand it. I lost my mum and dad, so my full sympathies are with you. So there we are. Also, I would like to say to you all, please wish Sin Mage a happy 34th birthday. It is his birthday today, and what a lovely age to achieve. May you have a wonderful day, Sin Mage. So if you could all give a nice, warm, happy birthday to Sin Mage. And next, I just want to remind you all about the baking competition, which is currently going on. It finishes on Monday the 19th, so this Monday coming up. Currently, we have the leader, who is Darren. He has baked a 51 quality loaf of bread. He's the only one who's mentioned, actually, that he's made a loaf of bread. I don't know if you're all staying quiet to the last, or whether this competition was a bit out of your depth. Anyway, it's looking like we're going to have a winner either way we go. For this baking competition, I can't retract what I said, so we're going to have two winners to it. So the two highest loaves of bread, people who bake them, will win and gain access to us here. So, in that vein, I now need to explain that the gamester is in the doghouse again. Let me explain to you all why. You all realise by now that Rainstorm is the brains and I am the fool. To cut a long story short, she pointed out the reasons why we have slow access to our server. The main one being, of course, that it's this server that we're playing on is being run from her home computer. So the more people that are on here, the more limited she is of when she can do server restarts or normal restarts for whatever reason she needs to. So I will respect her wishes and her logic, because it far exceeds mine, and just explain that after the baking competition we will just stick to having one winner per competition after the baking one. The baking's an exception. And of course, with regards to someone joining you, I just want to make clear that it is only one person to join you. So if you play with your, like I say, your friend or your spouse or someone else, then if you win a competition, you can invite one person to join you who you normally play with, because we wouldn't wish to split you up. No way, absolutely not. So there we go, and that's why I'm in the doghouse. So I think hopefully now, though, I may be able to get out of it, but we'll see. Anyway, right, so let's start on this episode of Reinforcing the Mind, because it is supposed to be about that after all. Okay, now, where we're going to start, not over here, of course. I would like to, because this fountain is very lovely, especially with that unicorn on the top. Makes up for all the unicorns we were killing a while ago. They are lovely creatures. Right, okay, let's though go to the mine. Because there's no point in reinforcing the crops. You're not going to wake up one morning and decide to reinforce your crops, because it would be pointless and you wouldn't be able to anyway. Okay, so we're going to start by making a support beam. Thankfully, down here I have a pile of rubbish, and it also includes some useful items. Yeah, I know it's a mess around here. You should hear what they're all saying. They're all having a go because of my mess, but at least Roman appreciates my mess. Okay, let's open up this pile of rubbish, and what we're going to need, okay, let's bring up the recipe window and do this properly. You'll see I've been prepared, and what you type in is support space B, and then it will show you the support beam. That's what we're going to need. The components necessary for creating your support beams. For each single one, you will need 2 logs, 2 iron ribbons, and 4 shafts. So there we go. That's the materials. So let's drop the iron ribbons in my pocket. Let's drop the logs in my pocket. Let's drop the shafts in my pocket. You'll notice I have an extra one. That's because I actually want to demonstrate reinforcing twice. Now, the first thing to mention about support beams, and I will switch to Wurmpedia to read just in case there's anything I do miss, but the first thing to mention about the support beams, and a very important thing, is that for your iron ribbons, your wood and your logs and your shafts, the quality level of them all does not matter at all. Now, it might well say in Wurmpedia, oh, the higher you get a higher success chance, but I'll tell you now, if you're going to be making hundreds of support beams, for those of you that like large mines, the quality level doesn't matter. I use all the scraps. This is our scrap storage bin here, and so I normally make the support beams out the scraps, because the quality level doesn't matter, because it's just going to be reinforcing. Once you've reinforced, you can forget about it. Right, let's add the support beam to the crafting window and get started. Okay, there's our support beam. Now, a good habit for you to get into would be that perhaps you want to create your support beams out of the mine. Well, for the more observant of you, you will notice that in the cart there is an unfinished support beam. It is handy to keep them all unfinished until you actually get to the tiles you want to support. Simple reason is you can carry a load more then in your cart. So that's just what we're going to do. We're going to create our support beam, but we will not finish it. And we will then proceed into the mine, find the tile that we want to reinforce, and then we will finish the support beam. Right, okay, so let's add it again. For some reason it lost it. Okay, so let's now create. it will start by creating an unfinished support beam. And it will probably put it in my trash pile. Yep, there it is. So we'll put that in our pocket. We will then add that to the crafting window. And now we will just add the components left over. So there's the iron ribbons. Next we'll do the log. The type of wood doesn't matter, because once it's created into a support beam and used on the tile, it doesn't matter what wood type it is. You can use any scrap woods, doesn't matter. Okay, let's add the shafts. Right, okay, so one shaft left to add, so we'll put that in the cart. Let's now get ready to get into the mine. Now you'll notice that I have lots of lamps in the mine, which I can thank, and you can thank, Daniel for creating all of the lovely lamps. Thank you, Daniel, for that. It enables us to have light while we're in the mine. I'll also have my pumpkin. Oh, the pumpkin says hello, by the way. Okay, let's go into the mine and do some reinforcing. Okay, I don't think I've actually shown you this mine yet. I am going to do another episode on the prospecting, so we can clear that up to show you how to find them all. I am still trying to find every single ore and marble and slate before I do that episode, so forgive me for delaying with that. Okay, the first thing to mention about, let's close that for now. The first thing to mention about reinforcing, okay, a couple of good things to mention to you. Number one, when you get to reinforcing your mine, the most important first two tiles to reinforce is your entrance, okay? Because the most common tiles that I have noticed that collapse in all the years that I've played Wurm is the entrance. The entrance, without fail, will always regularly collapse. And then, of course, you've got to retunnel back in. So for that reason, I'm going to demonstrate reinforcing it. Now, I did mention it in the previous episode, but I will mention it again, as this episode is on reinforcing. When you reinforce a tile, remember that a tile has, let's see, so it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that side and this side, 5, 6 sides to it. You only have to reinforce a minimum of 2 sides to each tile, and you will never see it collapse. In all the years I've played Wurm, I'm sure it agrees with me in Wurmpedia, but in all the years I've played Wurm, whenever I've reinforced at least 2 sides of a tile, it has never collapsed. And on that subject, I've never observed a tile with one side reinforced, as in an iron node or another ore node. I've never observed the tile collapse next to that either. But I won't go out on a limb with that. I'll just stick to a minimum of 2 sides reinforced. Okay, before I go into the mine, let's quickly read Wurmpedia, because I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, here's what the wonderful Wurmpedia says for the support beam, which we are going to finish in a moment. Description: a wooden construction made from logs, planks and metal ribbons, intended to support walls in mines, used to reinforce and support cave walls and floors in caves, mines and tunnels. Okay, the usage I'm going to show you in a second. The creation I've gone over with you, but I will mention what it says. The first log used in creation must be 24 kilograms. However, the second may be 18 kilograms. So for those of you that have very, very few trees, there's a useful little bit of information for you. It's only the first log which needs to be full weight. The next one can be 18 kilograms. Okay, it does go on to mention that the shafts required could be made from this second log to save resources. I think that, you know, by this stage of reinforcing, you wouldn't have started reinforcing unless you've started to get a lot of logs. So I'm quite sure that you should hopefully start to get lots of wood with your forests that you've been planting. And it does mention under creation, when creating, the quality of the shaft affects your success chance. Well, you just keep trying and you'll get it, because you'll keep getting good skill gain. Under notes, a support beam is required on every wall of a cave tile, both sides, to prevent the tile from collapsing. So there we go, 2 sides is sufficient. A reinforced wall can be mined but not excavated. Very important to bear that in mind. You don't want to close off your mine. Be careful that you always leave gaps to be able to mine. A reinforced floor can be mined to remove the reinforcement with 21 body strength. No shard is produced and the slope does not change. Okay, there's an important note for that, which we will be getting to doing. Support beams may be removed by mayors and villagers of a deed if the reinforced tile is on deed by mining the tile 40 to 50 times. Okay, next. Support beams cannot be removed otherwise, not even by collapsing the tile that holds the support beams with a shaker orb. Because the support beamed tile is the tile holding rock, not the empty tile. The shaker orb, you're all asking. I'm not going there, that'll be drifting. But basically I believe it's something you can buy from a trader if you spawn a trader into your world. Okay, moving on. Finished support beams do not fit into a small cart, rowing boat or small sailboat. However, a large cart can hold 7 finished support beams. Now you'll notice that I showed you not finishing the support beam. I'm using a large cart. I could have finished them, but some of you out there may be using small carts, so I didn't want to cause you a lot of aggravation, so that's why, another reason why I stuck to not finishing them, because it's a good habit to not get into if you've not got a large cart. If you've got a large cart, then it doesn't matter, you can finish them like it's just told you. Okay, moving on. Support beams fit into small and large carts. Now, why on earth would it say that if it's just said it doesn't? Okay, well, I'm going to just jump by that. I'm not even going there. Okay, next it says hint. If making a support beam outside of the cave and using a and using a small cart or rowboat to transport them, the best approach the best approach is to leave the beam unfinished, requiring a shaft or a ribbon. Yeah, I think we got the message. Okay, I think that's all we need to read. It does mention last of all Strong Wall, which is a spell for the priests. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to followers and priests, just not yet. Okay, so let's now go into the mine and reinforce one of these entrances. I will reinforce the other one, just not on camera, because I don't want to waste your precious time. So you need to be careful when reinforcing the entrance. If your cart is outside, you won't have access to the contents of it. Okay, just be very careful of that. It's caught me out many times over the years. Make sure you fully bring your cart into the mine before you try to get access to the contents of your cart. Okay, so let's get out of our cart. Let's now face. Let's do this side first. Oh no, it's reinforced already. And that's reinforced already. Okay, because I was viewing it from outside the mine, it didn't show me that. But that's alright, because I know there's loads of tiles in here which haven't been reinforced. Another important thing to mention. I've already said that Dan has put a load of lovely lamps in here and lit it up nicely. Whenever you place a lamp down, sorry, I've got a really tickly throat at the moment. Whenever you place a lamp down, always make sure you reinforce the tiles either side of the lamp. Never leave it unreinforced, otherwise that tile will collapse and it will destroy your lamp. Sorry, forgive me. It will destroy your lamp and anything else that is on that tile if the tile collapses. So always reinforce at least a minimum of 2 tiles. Okay, 2 sides to that tile. Okay, moving on. So they're both reinforced. Let's move down another tile. This one's not reinforced. It's got a bulk storage bin on this tile, so I definitely want to reinforce both sides. For now we will only do one. Okay, so let's finish one of these unfinished support beams. You put it in your pocket. We need to add one shaft. We will add the crafting window. There we go. And we will now just add the last shaft and continue. When you finish your support beam, it will be dropped on the floor. So we pick it up. We now activate the support beam, and we now right click on the surface that we want to reinforce and left click reinforce. Now the texture's changed, as you can see, but you're saying Gamester, it still says just cave wall. What you have to do, move your cursor off of the wall and back on, and you see it's updated. So there we are, one reinforced wall. Now I need to do the other side, but I'll do that at another time because your time's far too precious for me to waste. What I now want to do is tell you something else very important about reinforcing. This is going to be a large mine. Well, actually it's going to be a small mine because I'm stuck on an island at the moment, but once I get to the mainland things are going to change. But you yourselves, some of you who enjoy mining, are going to make huge mines. So let me tell you a lovely trick to saving on having to make hundreds of support beams, or possibly thousands. There is a golden rule, as I've pointed out earlier, to creating your mines. The golden rule is always stick to straight lines. So let's go down here and elaborate on what I'm trying to explain to you. Making reinforcements, support beams, will chew up a lot of iron and a lot of logs. I know it's only two iron ribbons and 2 logs, but the iron ribbons are 3 kilograms in weight, and you will have to mine lots and lots of iron. You will get sick of that. So if I can tell you a way to save on a huge amount of support beams, I'm sure you will appreciate it. Now, if I look north, there is an iron vein in my way. I told you, if you mine tunnels straight, you're eventually going to hit iron. It always happens to me. I will explain in a moment about what you do with that. But if I look to the south, you will see what I want to demonstrate. We have a long straight tunnel. You can't even see the end of it. If we look back to the entrance, we've got a long, nice straight tunnel going back up. The golden rule to reinforcing is, if you make your tunnels nice and straight, then you don't have to worry about if a tile collapses in that tunnel. Okay, you don't have to worry about which tile it was that collapsed. So just to try and make this sound simple, what you will do is the first corner or corners of that tunnel you will reinforce. Okay, you will reinforce. I know I haven't done that one. I will, don't worry. You will reinforce both sides. It's an important, let's get the cart out the way and let's try and explain this efficiently to you. Okay, let's get back, let's get out. Okay, you will notice here, for example, there is 4 directions I went in. Okay, it is important to reinforce each corner. That way, that tile will never collapse, that tile will never collapse, that tile will never collapse, and that tile will never collapse. The 4 directions that my tunnels go in. That way I will always see which way they are leading. But for the second tile in, it doesn't matter about reinforcing it if I don't have a lamp on it or any other items. Because if that tile collapses, I know from the first tile in that I've got a tunnel going in that direction, so I only have to remine that tile. When I remine that collapsed tile, I will then see the rest of my mine, okay, the rest of that tunnel. Now, it is very, very unlikely that every single tile in that tunnel is going to collapse. I've played for over 7 years. I've never seen that happen. When I've had a break, the longest break for 6 months from Wurm, I've come back and about 3 at maximum, about 3 tiles in that tunnel have been collapsed. It's not been a problem for me because I know that the tunnel goes straight. So I've just gone through oh, there's the crops. I've just gone through re-mining the collapsed tiles. Now though, however, you're saying to yourselves, well Gamester, what about down here where you've got an iron vein in your way? What on earth do you do there? Well, and this is all in my opinion, okay? Everything I'm telling you is just from my experience. You do everything the way you wish, but it'll save you a lot of pain. Okay, so in this example, for this example, we have an iron vein. We can't go through it because it could be 7,000 plus ore in that vein. So what I do is I will always mine the tile to the right of the obstruction. So I will mine to the right one. I will then mine to the next to that obstruction, and then just past it, and then I will mine back to the left. So I'm then back on my straight line for my tunnel. So you see, that should hopefully make sense to you. Now when you see a vein of an ore, they are very useful. They save you having to reinforce because that acts like a reinforcement. My lamp will be safe. I have never in all the years been playing this game seen a tile collapse that has been next to an iron vein. I know that the golden rule is to reinforce at least 2 sides to every tile, but I can also tell you that I've never seen one collapse next to the iron vein. But do understand that that tile in the corner, the tile there that is not adjacent, straight adjacent to the iron node, that tile will collapse at some point, and so will that tile, because they are not adjacent. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I really do. Okay, so there we go. That's how you can save on a huge amount of reinforcements. But anytime that you do have a tunnel going off in a different direction, remember the golden rule, reinforce both sides to the entrance to that new tunnel. Doesn't matter about the rest, but the 2 at your entrance, or if you have bends, so for example here going around that iron node, what I will now have to do is reinforce that tile and reinforce that tile, so that these don't collapse around it. Okay, so it's saved, so I'm protecting that tile. Now you will have noticed, those of you that have watched Tosh's videos, in one of his videos by mistake he reinforced a mine floor. That's not a mistake. That's a very useful trick to use, because you may reinforce all of the corners to your tiles, but remember each tile does require a minimum of 2 tiles to be reinforced. You can't reinforce a ceiling, but you can reinforce a floor. So for this tile here, which doesn't have tiles to the sides of it, you can at least reinforce the floor. I know it's only one side of this tile that's been reinforced, but like I mentioned to you previously, I have never observed a tile with one reinforced side collapsing. Now some of you out there will probably leave a comment and say that you have. Well, if that's the case, that's the case, okay, so be it. But in my personal experience, I've never seen a tile collapse with one of its sides reinforced, although Wurmpedia does say a minimum of 2. So there we are. Okay, so let's go back to my notes and see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention to you. You know that I mentioned previously you will always have gaps of 2. Okay, so single tile mines, only 1 tile wide. Notice there's no creatures in this mine. Okay, so you would hardly never... Oh, there's the timer. I've nearly finished, don't worry. So you'll never see creatures in your mine. And for mining itself, for creating your tunnels and the design of your mine, which I'm going to go over more in prospecting, remember the golden rule of 2 tiles either side. So tunnel, then a tile, then a tile, then your tunnel. I've only tunnelled out 1. That way you're seeing both sides, so you're not missing any of the... when you're... I'll save that for prospecting. Wherever you are in the world, God bless you, and keep every single last one of you safe. Have a fantastic day, and thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode on reinforcing. Goodbye.